Sometimes I think adults are just too old to be as misinformed as some of them are. So I saw two posts back to back, and one was talking about how feminists, man, they must be kicking themselves because, they had it so easy. They didn't have to work, and now they have to work. And oh gosh, how horrible was that? How that backfired. And then the second one said, men must have been really terrible for women to fight for the right to work. So, first off, let's start off with this. Only wealthy women were stay at home wives and moms. Other women have always worked. The wealthy woman was the trophy wife, the lady of leisure. Stay at home moms and wives also had jobs. In fact, there's so many jobs that were female oriented throughout most of history. Going back prior to patriarchy for 295,000 years, men, women, and children did the same things. There were no gender roles. If you have a village, you need every hand on deck. You need everybody to be able to fish and farm and hunt and weave and preserve food and track and do everything that you need to make that village work. And then the people that are really good at it, they become the trainers of the next generation. They become the specialists. And in fact, if you look at what a lot of anthropologists have found out, some of the best hunters in the village were the grandmothers. So that's women working. Then when patriarchy came around, women still did farm labor. They were domestic servants. They did textile work. They were shopkeepers. They were midwives. They were seamstresses. They were brewers. They were nannies, cooks, teachers. They did embroidery. They were tailors. And that word spinster, it became an insult because women who spin and create all kinds of tapestries and textiles could make enough money to live alone, to not need a man. And just like today, when some men are upset that women don't need men, that term spinster was turned into an insult to discourage young women from thinking of themselves as independent and not wanting to get married. Now, why did feminism have to get involved in labor? Because of the law of coverture. When you go back to, 1100, 1200, 1300, 1400, 1500, 1600, 1700, 1800, and the early 1900s up until 1972 in some states in America, 1993 in some states in America, the law of coverture was in place. So what did the law of coverture say? It said that a female child was not a person. She was the ward of her father. And then when she became an adult, she became a legal person. If she were married, her father would walk her down the aisle and hand her over to her husband. That was a physical sign of him transferring ownership of her identity to the husband. Now they became one person, one flesh. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Jones, Anderson, whatever. One person legally. One vote. One ability to earn wages. One everything. She couldn't sign any contracts as a married woman. She could not have a bank account as a married woman. She could not keep her wages as a married woman. She had no credit, no access to legal protection. She was his property. And marital grape was allowed because you can't grape somebody that is legally considered yourself. And that was the case until 1993. And women didn't get access to their own wages as married women, depending on the state, between 1890 up into the early 1900s, depending on the state. Women didn't get access to credit and being able to sign contracts, being able to get loans and grants in some states till 1972. And then, of course, we had no fault divorce. We had access to medical care without the husband's permission. All of that was under the law of coverture. So that is what feminism fought for women to keep their wages, for them to be able to sign contracts, for them to have legal protections and a legal independent identity. That's what feminism fought for, not to work, because women have always worked. So hopefully that clears up a few things for people that were misinformed about that. And just to go a little bit further into this topic, there's actually fewer women working now than worked in the past. In the past, even among married women, the rate of married women in the workplace was 65%. Now it's 50%. It's actually gone down. So this idea of the nuclear family, that's new. It's not old. That was actually pretty much created in the 1950s. So, let's get rid of this idea that men built the world and that women were just, in the home cooking and cleaning and childcare providing for their own children. Because that's not reality at all. Women have always worked. May you walk in synergy.